Friends, a very, very warm welcome to all of you from your friendly host Ajay Kumar and yet another fresh and exciting episode of Beyond Success Unleash the New You video podcast series. Picture this: two wide eyed boys starting grade 1 together, racing through the halls of Lamartine College, Lucknow, sharing dreams, laughs, ups and lows together, and even went across to share a cramped hostel room as first year civil engineering student at MNIT Allahabad. Yes, that's me and my brother in arms, Nikhil Pant. We are bound by give or take maybe 50 years of friendship together. That kind of gives away our age as well. Um, Today, I'm really, really beyond thrilled to introduce this extraordinary soul, a visionary who's redefined success through purpose and impact. As chairman and CEO of REACHA, a groundbreaking grassroots NGO, and a founder of Lakshya, Nikhil has spent over 3 decades weaving together governments, corporates, and communities to drive sustainable development. From pioneering CSR strategies at the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs to delivering award winning projects with the Indian Army in Kashmir, he crafts need based solutions that spark social change with spirited, positive approach. So, guys, get ready for a conversation with a change maker who proves success is beyond just people. It is about the country, it is about planet and purpose together. So, Nikhil, first and foremost, a very, very warm welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ajay. Really appreciate Ajay for this gesture and the kind words. And I think what you're attempting is something which is very much needed in the world of today and for the future. And I'm more than happy to kind of share whatever little I have been able to do in my life. But as you rightly said, everyone has a journey and everyone is seeking purpose as to why and how and whatever. So more than happy to be sharing my nuggets of experiences if they can contribute to strengthening your larger work which you are trying to do. And my sincere gratitude for inviting me to the show.
Thank you. And as always, you're very modest, Nikhil. We are so glad that you joined us because that's the idea which we're trying to promote and trying to see that if more and more people can listen to what you have to offer, what you've done through your journey. And so, Nikhil, 50 years knowing each other, how does it feel?
Yeah, amazing, Ajay. And the beauty of this association is that we are connected, and the beauty of any relationship or rishta, as we call, is how it can sustain through thick and thin. And the key is consistency, the key is sustainability. You are today talking a lot about sustainable development and all of that. I also call it sustainable relationships.
Right.
If you have sustainable relationships, then I think you can do sustainable good and sustainable development, because it is people like all of us who make this world. And the remaining connected in some way or the other. And as you rightly said, while we were growing up, we used to play cricket together. We have some
Correct.
amazing memories of our cricket matches in Lamartine and with some of our other schoolmates. And then our amazing and hilarious sometimes episodes in our engineering days in Prayagraj, erstwhile
Right.
Allahabad, NIT there, Motilal Nehru Regional Engineering College at that time, but now NIT Allahabad.
Correct.
And then we all have moved on in our lives, Ajay, and somewhere I feel that we've remained connected at the core because of, I think, family values also. And
Absolutely.
we come from very grounded families. And I remember that when I would come to your house in Park Lane Colony, talk to your parents, uncle and auntie, and you would come to my house in Dilkusha Colony in Lucknow, and we would talk about things, we would do things together. So I think what is so amazing about an association like this is that after 50 years, if we are discussing how we can pass on something good to the world, as we grow and we grow older, but can we encapsulate some of our learnings and experiences, uh, respectively, separately as well as together, which can, is a way of giving back to the world and which makes this world a better place. And I think that's what you try to do in your book also, Ajay. And as part of your book and the dialogues, if you're doing this, I think it will further reinforce the larger goal of what you're attempting to do. And kudos to your effort. And I really look forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. George Herbert had to say the best mirror is an old friend. And you talked about the power of association, right? So I can tell
Absolutely. It's
to
the most
everyone.
important thing, Ajay. It is the most important thing because human relations is the most important thing, I feel.
Correct.
Because if we do not give consideration to relationships, everything is a corollary to relationships.
Correct.
If you have a bad relationship, you may have wars. You have wars. What is happening in Russia and Ukraine? It is bad, poor relationships. And
Absolutely.
you may have peace and happiness in an ashram or in a temple or in a rural place because it is good relations between the community members. So I think relationship at the core of what you are trying to do, where you're trying to define success and going beyond success. I think at a very core level, we could talk a little bit more about relationships, human relationships, as we go along in this conversation.
100% agreement. And for the benefit of the audience, I can tell you, I'll give you one example which will prove the point which Nikhil was mentioning about the relationships and the sanskars or the values you derive with your family values and with the friendship people who you spend your most of your time during college days. Both of us, for some reason or the, we were like wanted to always be healthy all across our life. And
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
that, we
yeah.
used to do. So
Very
one of the things which we discussed was, Nikhil, if you recall, we said we're never going to smoke in our entire life.
yeah, yeah.
And both of us seem to
Absolutely.
that
We decided that,
whatever
and
situation might have come across in our life.
absolutely, absolutely, and we never did that. And we were very clear about if you're not in good health, you cannot do anything at all. And I think
Absolutely.
sports. I think from our childhood, sports was a very critical ingredient in our lives. Sporting
Correct.
family values with embedding of sports because sports brings in healthy competition. You want to beat the other guy, but then you have immense respect for the other guy also. So when we talk about beyond success, I think it is also about relationships and it is also about mutual respect of each other. And I think something like sports brought us together. And there I think our school has a lot of credit to Lamartine College Lucknow, because we would have very structured inter-house games, inter-school
Correct.
matches, and
House
we would
matches.
work very hard to, yes. And while there was a lot of sporting rivalry, but sporting rivalry leads to healthy respect and therefore good relationships with one another. I think so. It's all interconnected, I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Nikhil, for the benefit of the audience, Richa and Lakshya, in just few lines, if you could tell everyone what are they all about, what do they have to offer, so that they get a little bit of perspective around.
So REACHA is a non-profit which was set up by my father, Sri Jagdish Chandra Pant, a former Indian IS officer from the 1961 batch of Uttar Pradesh, and very, very upright IS officer, somebody whom I actually grew up admiring, and I wanted to become an IS officer myself because I could see the good that he was trying to do through the government system. And when eventually he was Secretary Government of India around 1992, he set up REACHA as a non-profit because he realized that after working through 30 years of government service, somewhere the government mandate was not reaching the people. And just like at the age of say 50 plus, you are writing a book because you've also realized certain things. He felt that uh, one way is to come out of the system, and the other could be, can I be within the system and I do something which is an entity outside the system, which can catalyze the system outside and from outside into the system. So REACHA was
Mm-hmm.
actually formed as an organization which could ensure that the government programs reach the people. Now, the government programs are taxpayer-driven money program. As we all pay taxes, they are welfare schemes of government. And often, where he was in government of India, he realized that even if he had the power of the state, the benefit that should accrue to the common man was not reaching. So REACHA was formed as that organization which would actually consult the people, which would actually seek guidance from the people. We call it need assessment today in the social development sector, whether they are actually getting what they really want in their lives. And can REACHA then facilitate government programs to reach? So REACHA was began by a few government officers who felt that they wanted to be a non-profit, a non-government entity part of it as well while they were in the system. So REACHA was formed that way, and I was just coming out of my engineering from REC Allahabad, Motilal Nehru, and I was also then one of the became the co-founders of REACHA because I used to see my father, I used to admire him, and I was giving my own civil services exam, and I actually in my second or third attempt I could not make it. And then I got one of the services, and my father said, Nikhil, why do you want to become an IS officer? He asked me. And I said, Ki, Papa, because I feel that I can really change the world, because it will give me the power of the state. So he said, if that was the case, then I wouldn't have set up REACHA. And I've been in this so-called powerful situation for 30 plus years. So he had a conversation with me in his study where he said that you want to become an IS officer because it's a means to an end or an end by itself. So I said, no, I want
Hmm.
it to be a means to an end, and the end has to be welfare state, goodness to the people in the community. So he
Right.
said that maybe you can join REACHA and be part of it. So that's how I also became part of REACHA. And so the whole objective of REACHA is to take is the establishment of a welfare state where the community gets what it deserves and what it aspires for, but it should not get it as a free gift. People should be trained to become deserving of that what they are aspiring for, and how the government programs can reach. And coincidentally, and I'll speak more about it as we go along, many years later in 2014, when the CSR law came in, and I was part of the government, part
Right.
of the team that actually rolled out the law. The mandate of the CSR law is exactly the mandate by which REACHA was set up so many years ago. So somewhere
Hmm.
in my journey of life, Ajay, because we're talking about purpose, we're talking about success here. Uh, the divine also conspires to take you in the right direction if your intent is good. So the core and the key is intent. What is your intent in this world where you are? So Richa's intent has been to be very, very strong on giving back and taking the benefit of the government programs to the people. And when CSR came, then CSR partnerships are actually helping us achieve that objective, because you need funds, you need money to do that.
Absolutely.
And coincidentally, I went into a place where this whole formulation was happening. So a lot of corporates came to know me as a person and as somebody who was very driven by this. So then this is a brief about Richa. Lakshya is an advisory firm which was formed in 2018 to guide corporates and strategize as to how they must spend the money. If they are required to spend the money as per law, there should be a strategy, there should be a game plan. And that game plan should be in relation to the needs of the people
Hmm.
for whom this
Hmm.
is made, but also must consider the voice of the corporate employees, because it is because of the efforts of the employees that the company is making profits. And basis that profit, this money is coming, because then they become eligible for CSR under the law. So there is a so Richa actually works a lot in the space of taxpayer money, which how can the welfare benefit, and then by virtue of that we do CSR partnerships. And Lakshay actually guides a lot of corporates which deal with CSR, which is shareholder money. So somewhere this dynamics of taxpayer money and shareholder money is what Richa and Lakshay also do. Lakshay also works very closely with Niti Aayog. In fact, day before yesterday, I was at the National Disaster Management Authority. A lot of government organizations who also want to collaborate with CSR, because now what has happened, Ajay, there is a realization that government must collaborate with corporates to do more effective implementation on the ground, because when the corporate gives its funds, they are bringing
Hmm.
in technology, project management, and innovation. So both
Right.
Richa and Akshay have very, very defined roles and very driven by a very focused approach on nation building.
Got you. No. See, you made a lot of important points, and actually, you covered some of the portions which I intended to cover going forward. So, but let me call out a few things which kind of stood by me, right? The first thing, for your dad, I can say that with great confidence because I've seen him growing up, and it was
Yeah,
not only you and thousands of other people who knew him got inspired by him, but even I was one of those souls also who got inspired by looking at Uncle.
yeah,
Despite being such a senior bureaucrat officer in the government, he was so humble, down to earth.
yeah.
He used to do all the right things in terms of like the sanskars and value we talked about, right? Being healthy. So I
Yeah.
remember he getting up early in the morning doing yoga exercises. He even used to play
Yes, yes,
squash with us, which was like at
yes,
his age, and he
yes.
used to kind of give us a run for the. It was very very heartening experience to know him as an individual, as a leader, which is there. So I'm also one of those souls who got inspired by Uncle. I wanted to call that out and take the opportunity to do that.
That's so nice of you. I'll pass it on to him. He'll feel very happy about it.
Absolutely. The second thing you talked about was the whole concept, the backdrop, which made you look at not pursuing the career, the traditional career, which when we were growing up, anybody good in studies, you only had three options. as per the society. You either become an engineer, doctor, or an IAS. That's it. And the others were
Yeah.
like, you're not so good in career at that time because not
Yeah.
the economy was not open at that time. So we had a very convoluted way of definition the society looked at things. So that was another thing which you said, that how you really looked at taking and traversing this journey. The third thing you
Yeah.
talked about, government and corporate coming together, which can create a big impact. And if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, India was one of those initial countries which
Yeah.
mandated it with
Yeah.
a law actually, and saying that if
Absolutely.
you are an organization having so much of revenues, 2% of your profit you need to necessarily spend in CSR, which will be an audited figure, which is there, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's hats off
Absolutely.
to.
And I again go back to intent, Ajay, because as I was growing up, I used to see my father, and I used to also feel, that when I would do anything good to anybody, I used to feel a lot of happiness. So in my case, all of this began to happen very early in life as well, because one, I could see my father do this, and when I would help anybody, I would feel a lot of happiness. So somewhere, there was a sense that I was not chasing money and I was not chasing any status in society or in life. I really did not know what I should do, but I did know that I should do something which can make this world a better place, and because that makes me happy. That is something which began to happen when I was very young as a growing child. I had no idea that whether I should become an engineer or a doctor or an IS officer, but I could see that if I did something good to others, I would feel very happy.
Absolutely.
So I think it was also related to the fact, because of family values, as I said, and the environment that the parents give in the house, where the child is able to experiment a lot with all of these things. And I was very lucky to be, with this kind of an environment, get to experiment and get the feedbacks and the stimulus and the validation. So eventually, I think the intent is also, in many ways, Ajay. Now that I'm talking to you, intent also comes from within. You cannot teach intent. By nature, if you have goodness, which is driven by intent, so somewhere that intent, I wouldn't call it genetic, but it is nature and nurture. I would call it a lot with nurturing, and that nurturing is the family situation and the neighborhood and the friendships like yours and the others, and the college and the school that we studied in. I think all of these are very key contributors, Ajay.
Correct, correct, correct. And Nikhil, as you're aware, I've also kind of pursued my spiritual quest on my own.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
whatever you're saying actually resonates very well across some of the concepts. So, concept number one, which is there, is that now it is scientifically also getting proven, which in the spirituality talks about. It says that a person gains more happiness and reaches a state of bliss, which is there, while they are giving away to society, to people, rather than receiving back,
Absolutely.
which is there. So it's
Absolutely.
getting scientifically proven as well. To your point, saying that you felt that happiness when you used to do something good for others, it's also getting
So Ajay,
scientifically.
let me just interject over here. And I may not be the only one who feels this happiness. I think what tends to lack in a lot of people is the mindfulness to become aware about this happiness, which is coming because of the goodness that you're doing. So the lack of the mindfulness also deceives you when you're growing up.
Correct.
And I think what made me mindful was because I could see it happening around me in my house when I'm kind of evaluating and I'm thinking back. Because this cannot be taught in a class. It
Mm-hmm.
is like it is observed, it is felt, you breathe it, you eat it, you live it. And because this intent then becomes your driver and which takes you towards your purpose, the larger forces of goodness in this world, as you rightly said, the spirituality, you become a madhyam, you become a medium of the divine, you become a medium of the spiritual forces. And then we also begin to believe that jo bhi hoga wo acha hi hoga, that whatever happens will happen for the good. So when I didn't get into IAS, I used to feel so sad. But now when I look back, I feel, my God, what was fantastic gift it happened to me, that if I had become an IS officer, I would have been reinventing the wheel that my dad did for 30 years. And then rather, if I went into REACHA, the NGO, I was able to build upon till where my father had brought it. So somewhere all of these are interrelated. And again, as I said, it is all very spiritual, Ajay. And when you talk about purpose, you talk about success. You're also talking about success in your book. And somewhere I think what we as a society also need to understand, that if we go back into our scriptures, into our culture, Success is and should never be measured by material gains.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Success has to be your happiness, your health, and what are you contributing, what value are you contributing to society. Now when you hear a lot of people who have lived their lives and then they talk about this, because they have actually learned it through their experiences. But I feel that a lot of younger people, through programs like yours, we should try and encourage to understand all of this at a younger age. Imagine if a child of 25 begins to become mindful of about all of this, and then by the time they become 50, 55 like us, what this world would become. But they tend to kind of realize it much later. Therefore, the need of programs and dialogues like this is very, very critical, Ajay, and what you are attempting to do.
Agreed. And I sincerely believe it is, forget about the mid 20s. I believe right from elementary education level itself,
Oh, yes, oh,
they
yes,
should be
oh,
taught in
yes.
schools and they should be taught by parents alike so that they get a holistic kind of a learning environment. And the tender age where your mind is forming all these, be it mindfulness or appreciation for what it means for a true definition of success, I think it goes a very long way for all of us as individuals, society, humanity as such. No, this is good. And both of us, you talked about values, and both of us come from uh, Hinduism. So we follow
Yes.
all the best practices. We call gods as Devta. Devta is
Yeah.
also a concept of Dena. So they are always in
Yes,
the
very
giving mode,
much.
right? Otherwise, we as individuals always become Levta. We are always bring it on, bring it to me. We become consumers only rather than becoming giving back to the society.
Absolutely. And in fact, Ajay, you don't have to become a billionaire to start giving. I also believe in that. I see a lot of billionaires in the world today, they start set up their foundation, and which is a fantastic thing. But I'm saying that you don't have to have actual material wealth to start giving. You can start giving your time, you can start giving your talent and skills at a much younger age, provided this mindfulness begins to happen and you
Correct.
began to actually become mindful of the happiness that comes to you when you do good to somebody else.
Correct. 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 To prove your point, actually, a small story comes to my mind. Actually, I'll go ahead and share this. In olden days, there was a king, and to do some major initiative for the people, his own treasury was falling short of money. So he went across to look at asking for money contribution from everybody in the society over there in his kingdom. And so everyone came across. There were a lot of people who were big, big money lenders, who were zamindars, who had a lot of money to, and a lot of people gave very, very graciously to the king because that was the first time the king came across asking for help on that. And
Yeah.
while going across collecting money, they went to a small cottage where an old widow used to live. She didn't have much money with her. So all she had was one copper coin those days, and that was the least denomination. But she took that copper coin and gave to the king. Later on, all these zamindar then they were looking forward and asking, so who's the biggest donor in this initiative of yours? And a lot of people were expecting their name to be called out. And the king says it was that old widow in that cottage who's the biggest donor. And people said, why? She only gave a copper coin. We gave you so many uh, millions of gold coins, etc. Why that lady?
Yeah.
He said, she gave 100% what she already had. You guys gave a percentage of what you had. So, to your
Yeah.
point, giving doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a billionaire to give. It means
Not
the
at all. Not
intent.
at all.
It is the intent
Yes.
over here to your earlier point. 100% whatever had, she was willing to part away with that for a good cause. So,
Yeah.
and it's all about that same concept which you're talking about, saying that bringing the government, in this case, the king and his machinery, with the people
Yeah.
living to benefit the people. You bring the government, bringing the corporates together to benefit the society. So, anyway,
Absolutely, Ajay. And in fact, Ajay, in REACHA, we have about 250 staff now around about 12 to 15 states in the country. We do a lot of internal training every week, every 10 days. I have trainings and I talk to my staff. And I keep telling all of them that if you are a community based worker, then the work in REACHA is not a job. It has to be a journey of purpose. It is a spiritual journey for each one of you. And whatever funds we get, it is because we are getting these funds for somebody who's there on the grassroots, for on whose name we are getting this money. Make sure that your success and your happiness is related to the benefit that you can do to the people on the ground, Ajay.
right.
That is very, very important. So we talk a lot about self reflection, Sameeksha. We do a lot of that. And it is very critical for each one of them to understand that working in REACHA has to also be related to you finding your purpose in life.
Right, right,
So,
right.
as an organization, I try and promote this very, very proactively, Ajay.
I agree with that. So I'll tell you, you've done so many great things. You're known as a subject matter expert in your field on CSR related in the country. You'll be one of the top one to go to person. One of your project which actually touched my heart is also about that award-winning project you did in Kashmir with the Indian
Yeah,
Army. Now,
yeah, Ajay.
for the benefit of the audience over here, could you share maybe one story from there which kind of you really believe improved lives over there and the ripple effect it created for a purpose-driven work being done over there?
Absolutely, Ajay. So when we went to Kashmir, it was in 2016, and we were invited by the Indian Army in a place called Baramulla. It is an aspirational district. An army was doing a program called Operation Sadbhavna. Sadbhavna
Mhm.
means an Operation Goodwill, because
Right.
a lot of insurgency, a lot of strife was there in Kashmir, and that's when just 2 years before CSR had come out, and they were keen to see how CSR can partner them, and that's where ONGC came forward with Richa to work very closely with the Indian Army, and we set up a Chinar Naujawan club where we got the youth from the community to come and start engaging. So we started a program of engaging with the youth, trust
Mm-hmm.
building,
Mm-hmm.
relationship building again. We started
Mm-hmm.
building relations with the community, which we call the Awam of Kashmir, which was otherwise getting disillusioned because of a lot of negativity all around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, through that, we hired community leaders and community people as trainers and teachers who then helped us reach to the remote areas of Baramulla, some very, very strife, insurgency prone areas of Baramulla, to bring the youth to the community center that the army had set up. Now, there we started training them, we started skilling them, we started music with them, some therapeutic, we started drug de addiction. We started a whole lot of projects through CSR funding of ONGC where the army began to come across as a caring army and not an army which is forcing and on trying to occupy Kashmir, which was the wrong narrative that was being built all around. And we know the
Mm-hmm.
background of all the geopolitics around it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, initially, they were not very, because the people, the youth had a lot of anger, trauma of 70 years, of 60 years, 50 years of strife there. So when you're born in a house where, and the family value, as we were talking about, is actually all linked with trauma, with somebody dying, with somebody, doing stone pelting, somebody with the AK-47, in an encounter getting killed, or whatever. So to win them over, it took us a long time. And
I'm sure.
this is where Richa's team, they braved the guns and the stone pelting, and they went over there. A lot of our team members went over there. I myself was on the ground with the team. And as we engaged with the community, with the army, with ONGC to begin with, and then other funders came along like GenPact, and today IFL is also there. Today, the Taj Group is also funding us. A lot of other corporates have come in because the Kashmir scenario has changed, and there is peace. We found that around 4 or 5 years after our engagement and the trust building and whatever little we were doing, I got a call on a Diwali saying, "Sir, happy Deepavali, aap sabko, happy Janmashtami." Muslim people calling me and saying this, we all Hindu people here. They would never say all of that before it. Then the unfurling of the national flag began to happen at the army center. So,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, we felt that if you build bridges of relation and pyar, mohabbat, love, and compassion with the people, and they start trusting you, things change. And we helped a lot of youth find their careers. So there are a lot of stories. There is the story of this young girl called Shafia,
Mm-hmm.
and who came and learned the fashion designing program, because you asked one story. And Shafia learned fashion designing, then she set up a boutique, which was again funded by one of our CSR partners. And I met Shafia last month after many, many years. She's now married, and we did a Kashmir dialogue in Kashmir University, which was 10 years of our journey. And I see Shafia coming with a small baby in her hand, her son, which is about 2 years old. And I literally had tears in my eyes. And and Shafia just hugged me and she said, "Sir, aap kahan hai? Aap to hame bhul gaye." I said, "Nahi, Shafia, I cannot forget you. In fact, you and I have not connected maybe physically because internally hamara rishta bana hua hai. And that's why we are so emotional today." So when I was making a presentation about the 10-year journey of Richa in Kashmir, I called Shafia on the stage. And this is the key impact, Ajay, because you asked me this question. So Shafia was leaving her child on the seat and saying, asking somebody to hold the child while she goes to the stage to talk about her story. I said, no, Shafia, beta, आप बच्चे को लेके आओ साथ में, गोद में लेके आओ. You get the child along with you in your hands. So the baby is there with me, with her mother, with his mother, and I'm standing next to her. And then Shafia tells her story with a lot of passion. That's when the whole crowd there was pin drop silence. And that's when I told everybody that this story of Shafia, and now she's now running a boutique in Srinagar, and she's weaving clothes and ferens and shawls and sending them and selling them. The little baby of Shafia is now watching her mother. And now the in the morning when the baby watches her mother do something constructive to make a better living for herself and the family, this baby would grow up not as a stone pelter or as somebody who may want to pick up the gun. This baby would want to make her mother's business grow and bring more livelihood in Kashmir. So this is across generation impact that is coming across, Ajay, in Kashmir. And today, if you land in Srinagar, you won't find a hotel to stay. The kind of business that is getting generated. So the power of CSR that we could unleash, and I'm very humble about it because I feel that we've just done 1% of the work, or maybe less than that. And a
Hmm.
huge
Hmm.
acknowledgement to all our supporters and funders and my entire team at REACHA in the Indian Army. But the change in the trust, so we are now getting calls from a lot of youth in Kashmir. We have about 100 staff in Kashmir now across all districts who call us to say, sir, we want to join the REACHA team because आप जो काम कर रहे हैं कश्मीर के लिए वो कोई नहीं कर रहा है. And they would say this, that you are doing something because you are an external organization, you're bringing funders and you're developing the youth so that they become better. So this is again the power of CSR, Ajay, and the stories like those of Shafia are many, many more stories are there. And this is the change which is coming in India today, where, and I keep saying to everybody, the Naya
Correct.
Kashmir, the new India will be made by the women of Kashmir. Because it is the woman like Shafia who will now inspire her little baby to then become the future. And a lot of Kashmiri staff whom we have, I keep telling them that the community work that you're doing and the trust you're building, if tomorrow you stand up for elections, you might become the future chief minister of Kashmir. Any one of you might become the future prime minister of India. Because
Absolutely.
if you grow in politics through development work, then that is the strength of democracy. So I'm
I.
saying all of this, Ajay, because it all relates to CSR, it all relates to the work that REACHA has been doing with the Indian Army in Kashmir. And
Hmm.
Kashmir has been a global hotspot for years and decades. There are movies on Kashmir, there was the Uri attack. We've been through all of that to see what's the ground reality. And when you talk about beyond success in your book, and that's why I'm kind of speaking a little more with a lot of passion on this, that beyond success is also about empowering communities to transcend their difficulties across generations.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is sustainable. Sustainable. That is the sustainability beyond success that one has to look for.
Agreed. Agreed. I think this is a fantastic example and pointers which you shared. Uh, I was just trying to summarize few things in my mind. First thing was developing trust at the ground level, and you had to work at
Yeah.
the grassroots level, spend a lot of
Yes.
time, build that trust with
Yes.
them. It were taking a lot of effort. You had to be persistent so that you
Yes.
actually do not give up. It will not be a few days or few weeks exercise. It goes over years
Oh.
of hard work behind it. So you
Years.
did
It
that,
was years. And it was
and
with the danger of losing our lives and my team members' lives, because there was stone
oh my
pelting, there was
God,
crossfire, and you could all just end up not coming back home.
with
That was that
all.
danger. So, because Ajay, the intent was there, the divine forces will also protect you if your intent is good. I've also learned this in life. They will not only show you the right path, they will not only get you the good partners and the good people in good relationships, they will also protect you. So the
Correct.
biggest life insurance and the biggest safety valve in anybody's life I have learned in my life is your intent. The core, at the very core, what do you really want to do with whatever you are talking and whatever you are working? Core intent is the key.
I've heard somewhere if you protect your dharma, the dharma will protect you. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but the beauty of what you've been doing is not about not only about what you just said. I'm just trying to look at it from a different angle. I'm looking at an angle saying that, hey, you did something which helped channelize the energy of the youth over there into negative things to move to a positive, and
Absolutely.
which actually also went across to support their livelihood, like the example which you shared of that lady. The
Yeah,
livelihood
yeah.
supporting for herself, for her family, going forward for generations to come. And not only for
Yes.
her, when you look at individuals like this, it is the economy of Kashmir getting positively impacted. And it's a long term
Yes.
sustainable impact which you're creating. So this is fantastic. So,
And
you know,
Ajay, this story, and just to end last one last point before you go to the next point, is that if you see, Kashmir should be contributing to the GDP of India because of its beauty and maybe beauty better than Switzerland. But because of the policing needed for the army, you are spending so much part of the GDP to actually manage the distress over there. So, by strategic investment through CSR and by engaging with good relationships with people and by building trust, you can turn the narrative.
mm-hmm.
That's
I
that's called
agree.
strategy. That's the strategy. There is a book
I
called The Art of War, and I would call it the art of peace and the art of relationships. You know how you can change the whole narrative in a geography.
agree. So, Nikhil, you talked about the danger to lives. We talked about a concept that if you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. But
Yeah,
this is also very emotionally taxing. A lot of
yeah,
times you
it,
will come across setbacks as well. There are very high stake contexts involved over here in terms of when you individuals' lives, you're in whatever you're working with them, positively impacting their life, but there could be times where it doesn't seem to be going across the right direction.
yeah.
And on you also, it'll be so emotionally taxing, which is there. So, how do you
Yeah.
prioritize your own self care? And what role does it play for you when you're in front of people?
So very important, Ajay. So self, a lot of weekends I do a lot of reflection, Sameeksha, as to what we are doing and how we should go forward. A lot of self discipline in terms of fitness and exercise and playing squash. I play squash. I do yoga. Lot of discipline in your own body and mind,
Hmm.
because since you're very focused in your end goal, Ajay, and it is driven by, because you're focused on the end goal and it is driven by pure intent, your entire body gets charged up. And I've also realized, I've gone through a lot of disease myself. I keep telling everybody the best hospital is your body. Give it time to heal, and the body heals itself also. That doesn't mean you don't go to a doctor if the problem is high. So many times we felt that the program is not delivering and we are facing too many challenges. I have seen that whenever that has happened, some savior comes along.
Hmm.
It has happened 10 out of 10 times. I cannot, and this is again a spiritual feeling and realization. You suddenly feel that you're down and out. Some of your core staff betrayed you. Somebody told something and did something else, and you feel very hurt. And then you come back to your room, you do a weekend review and a Sameeksha. Because your intent is good and your goal is clear, I have found that the larger forces will give you new ideas. You will suddenly wake up in the morning and you'll have a new idea, and you will suddenly meet somebody who will show you the next path, because you are the madhyam and the medium of the larger force to do good to the world. So the surest way to go beyond success, Ajay, is to become a medium of the divine and to become a medium of goodness. And then if you are a medium of goodness, Ajay, you will yourself be very humble, because you will not say that I am doing it. You're only a medium, you are only a pipeline, and you have to be a strong and a robust pipeline to carry
Agree.
the fuel of change. You have to be very very clear about what is the end goal and how you are actually uh, working hard to achieve it. So these
Correct.
moments of difficulties and strife will come and go, and I think the end purpose and the end goal and your intent take you through, and you're therefore going back to the room and doing in reflection and thinking and strategizing is very important as you go back into the war. So I often call our community work as a military operation, as a commando operation. And for us,
Hmm.
I tell all my staff that you're all commandos. For us, the militant is poverty. For us, the militant is unemployment. The militant is the challenge on the ground, and
Hmm.
our goal is to go and beat that militant through the CSR that we kind of get, and the resources that we get, and that's the most important thing. And you will find solutions on the way. Jugaad milta hai, you will find ways. It's like a leap of faith. Also, you keep taking. You take a lot of leaps of faith, and because you know that faith is the one which is driving you through good intent, It's a pretty short thing I've seen. It's a pretty short thing.
Correct, correct, correct. No, very insightful. Very nice, very nice. And we talked about earlier, everybody in life has their own journey, which is there.
Yeah.
And so somebody who is in whatever part of their life stage they are in, they're unsure how to start making a positive impact. Maybe they are fully drawn into whatever work they're doing, etc. What
Yeah.
advice or what is that one practical step they can take to align their personal and professional lives to this holistic definition of success or give back to the society? Any tips on that?
Yeah, Ajay, for sure. Because I promote a lot of volunteering in my organization. I like, and I tell people that on weekends when the workload is less, do some self talk, Sameeksha, reflection. Reflection is the key. Because
Mm-hmm.
within everybody, 10 out of 10, there is compassion, there is good intent. But because
Mm-hmm.
there is so much of chaos all around in your life, you're not allowing that good intent and the compassion to come out. It is your
Mm-hmm.
ignorance. It is your ignorance which is preventing you, and reflection will help you remove the ignorance and let the goodness come out. The moment you allow this to come out, you will find that you've started becoming a madhyam or a medium of the bigger forces, and then they will start offering you options. You might suddenly get a call from somebody saying that, can you come and help me out with this volunteering effort? So when you get these signals, don't miss the signal and don't ignore the signal. This is called like crime patrol dastak. Dastak that we keep watching. There is a dastak, there is a signal that since you were reflecting and your goodness is keen to come out, but you have so much of chaos all around. You are so disturbed and distracted. So, removing the distraction and removing the chaos and allowing your goodness to come out is the key to it. And the only way it will come out is reflection, calm, very quiet. In Islam, they call it sabr. In Hinduism, they call it dharya.
Right.
You patience. You have to sit. You have to talk to yourself, and that will come out. Is what has been my experience, Ajay. And you will even get, even when you're doing the good work, you will get solutions to difficult situations. It all lies within.
No, very nice. And once you do your Sameeksha self-reflection, you try to figure out your purpose, and you can start small, maybe volunteer a few hours with your NGO, other NGOs which are around them, and try to create a
Yes.
positive impact, right?
Absolutely. Richa will always welcome anybody. You can share that, Ajay. We most welcome anyone and everybody. But just something which is nearby. And I would also say don't try to go in immediately into online volunteering straight away. You must go and meet people also. Human relationships is not about online stuff. It is also about connecting with people on the ground. And if you do that, you will actually get the vibration. You will log in
Hmm.
actually. It's not an online login is needed. You have to actually be on the field to log in into the hearts and minds of people. Then the relationship builds, and that
Gotcha.
leads to trust, and that leads to action, and that action leads to
Impact.
good results, and then the happiness. It's all interrelated. It is very process driven. Like you have business processes, you have business process outsourcing. All of those are well established. But I talk about there is a process by which you can actually discover yourself. So discovering yourself is a key to all of this, and you have to give yourself the opportunity to discover yourself. Often you maybe are
Hmm.
not doing it. I feel like it.
Okay, very insightful, very helpful. For people who are listening, I'll also encourage you to start following this and maybe share your experience on the platform saying that, hey, this is what I did over the weekend volunteering, and this is what you believe you gained out of that, be it the happiness or the positive feeling, vibes. And at the end of it, you'll always get a lot of blessings across in the ecosystem, which is going to help you in the longer term for sure.
And Ajay, let me tell you, the moment you do something good and you allow this goodness to come out and you start feeling happy, it is intoxicating. It is intoxicating. Much more intoxicating than alcohol and drugs. And in many ways, this is the spiritual happiness that is what you are seeking in life. In some
Mm-hmm.
ways, this also relates to when we play sports. When we play sports and endorphins are secreted and that make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a spiritual drug and it is compulsive. That's when you start doing it a lot and you start seeing the change in yourself, you will find that your relationships have suddenly started improving. Your
Correct.
fights with your wife will go down if you were having fights with your wife and your children and your friends, for example. You will
Right.
figure out that I must manage my expectations. Maybe I should increase my capacity of acceptance. Today the capacity for acceptance has gone down drastically. I
Right.
feel it is because that you are not allowing your compassion to come out. And I think
Correct.
this self reflection, which relates to some action on the ground, is again a key to going beyond success, which you're trying to tell in your book, Ajay.
Correct. 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 Okay, Nikhil. We'll move to the final part of the program, which is a rapid fire question. So, one word answer or maximum one sentence.
Sure, up to it.
Okay, cricket or squash?
So I'll go for a sentence. Playing squash, but closely following cricket because it teaches you so many things. We have been loving cricket from my childhood, but I
Right,
play a lot of squash because in minimum time it gives me complete exercise.
right, got you. What's the one word that sums up your approach to success?
Oh, one word, huh? I would say reflection, self-reflection.
Sameeksha or
Because
reflection?
the
Okay,
answer lies within. Because
got
your within will define your parameter of success. Nobody can take a and have an IPR on the definition of success. You have to define what is success to you. So the only way you can do it is by self-reflection.
What's that one book or a movie that shaped your view on social impact?
One
Book
movie
or a
or
movie?
book. I would say uh, my father would tell me about a movie that he had seen actually, because I am not a movie buff that much and I have not been reading too often because I'm so much involved with my work. A movie that he had seen when he was in NIS probationer, which was about magnificent obsession, about a doctor whose obsession was to treat his patients and but actually do something good to the patients beyond the medicine, and the patient should not know that the doctor is behind this goodness, something like a Gupta Dan kind of a thing. So that inspired me a lot that eventually, if you're trying to do good, you should not advertise it too much. The work should speak for itself.
Got you. If you could collaborate with one person, living or dead, for a day, who would that be?
Or collaborate, huh?
Yeah, any
Oh, Prime
person.
Minister Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi for sure. Because, I think he's doing some amazing work in the country. He's chosen for the 3 consecutive terms. People may say so many things plus or minus, but I keep saying that he's a democratically elected Prime Minister of the biggest democracy in the world and the greatest, I
Right,
feel.
right,
And if I get to be with him, I am very deeply inspired by his capacity to work in a very selfless way that I perceive, because I go to the ground, I go to remote areas, and I actually see the change which is happening. And I don't read about his work only. I actually go and talk to the people who are impacted, and that's where, if I get a chance to be with him for a day, it can be a life changing thing for me. I feel I will have so much to learn from him.
thank you. Nikhil, that was more, definitely way, way more than one sentence, but we'll move with that. What's the most unexpected lesson you learned from Kashmir project?
Most unexpected, huh?
Uh-huh.
I the most unexpected was that uh, development work is more powerful than the bullet actually, and you can change people through the goodness, and obviously you need the bullet to kind of manage the difficult thing. But I think the biggest learning was that the army, becoming so involved in the development program and coming across, because army is superb, the way they perform, and when they
Right.
get into development work it goes beyond imagination. So that is my learning, so much to learn from the way the army deals with situations and how that has helped us.
Okay. One song that lifts up your spirits during tough times.
One song. So as you are lover of Kishore Kumar,
Hmm.
and I guess so many songs of Kishore Kumar, Zindagi Ka Safar, I guess, is the favorite song which I keep listening to. Zindagi Ka Safar, and it lifts me a lot. It kind of grounds you, and I think with music you're able to connect to your earlier days in life, and if it kind of also connects with your process of reflection somewhere, because
Correct.
it is reflection which takes you closer to your own true meaning of life. So that's the song I would say.
Very nice. What's one cause you wish more people cared about?
One cause, huh? Oh, I would say working with children, in schools who are the future of the country, and giving some quality time to them in a very dedicated, structured way, in a sustained way, and not randomly. So a lot of people can actually do it, but they are not doing it maybe because they're not doing self-reflection. They are too much into their chaos.
Gotcha. If you weren't in CSR, what other option you might have had? What you might end up doing?
So I have always, one would have been sports, I say, but I have always dreamt of being a singer. Actually, I don't know why, because when I used to hear you and
Singer.
Shobit and the
That's
other
a revelation for me.
singer, yes, singer, because I am never able to sing, but I would have loved to be a good singer maybe. While sports is obviously something which I would have always liked, but if you ask me something which I would really think if I could have done would be to become a renowned singer maybe, whose songs of deep soulful songs which can connect you to your deeper self are enjoyed by people.
Very interesting. See, every day the learning thing, despite knowing you for 2 years, this is something which I learned today, and we had to come to this platform to talk and discuss to
Yeah,
get to know
yeah,
this
yeah,
part of
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's my
Amazing,
silent
Nikhil.
aspiration. Silent aspiration.
Yep. Today it became the silent became vocal today, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Nikhil, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I hope a lot of people are going to get inspired by listening to what you said today, and they'll start contributing more back to the society in a positive way. And with this, we come to the end of our discussions today, and we look forward to more and more engaging conversations and jointly doing something good towards society and humanity together. So, once again, thank
No,
you
no,
for your time.
it was a pleasure, Ajay. Namaskar and a pleasure, and all the very best to your efforts. I think they will all add up to, बूंद बूंद से सागर बनता है. Keep singing. हर बूंद के अंदर सागर है. So every drop counts, and the whole ocean is also within the drop. So all the very best to your efforts, and honored to be part of your show today. Thank you.
And wishing you all the very best for all your future endeavors. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
bye bye.
Thank you.